Welcome back, YouTubers, to my channel of An Everyday Life and Aspie. If you're new to my channel, I welcome you all. I'm Aspie. I'm all about creating mental health and awareness and sharing my life stories with Aspie syndrome and the like, along with tips and advice along the way, be it your general health versus your mental health, as well as hopefully some fun and games while you're journeying with me with my life with Aspie syndrome, going on the ups and downs and whatnot of what my life is like as an Aspie. So if you're new to my channel right now, at this point of time, I'm trying to do as much autism related topics as possible, because as we know, we're nearing on to Autism Awareness Month next month, so I just want to try and bring some out early just in case I'm going to be out of action again. You know, even though leading up to Easter period, just to be frank, that will be my birthday here, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing any videos, but this one's going to be the last of the Out and About series anyway. This one's about autism and going to the doctors. Hopefully you're enjoying these. Please give me feedback if you've seen some of them, and smash the like or just comment below, because as I said, feedback is most appreciated so I can move on from what I'm doing, whatever topic it may be. So in this one, basically, this autism and going to doctors broken down to two parts. The first part will be the before, during and after effect of the going to the doctors with your autistic child, and basically in saying this, that the possible triggers or reasonings behind why this experience is a bit stressful for them, regardless what it may be. And then in the second one of this part of going to the doctors for the autistic child is going to be hopefully your possible solutions and how you can help yourself and your child to make your trip to the doctor more easier and manageable for you and the child, and hopefully a calmer experience. So as I said before, I am no medical doctor. I'm just doing it based on my knowledge, experience and research. So if you see anything based out of the ordinary of the warning signs and symptoms from the previous, present or past videos that I've done in there, seek professional help for yourself or your loved one, or seek professional advice for yourself or your loved one, because I don't forever condone self-harm. Also, in saying this, I'm just your normal everyday Aspie, just trying to shed some light for you guys to mental advocate and educate you all, regardless what, hopefully. So let's begin this. As we know, basically, for any child with autism, or if your child has autism, any visit, be it the doctor's, dentist, and that can be really stressful and basically a real daunting time for you as the carer or parent, versus basically just the autistic child, because of the everyday changes that's going on. As we know, basically going to the GP, like anything, is an important person in our life to keep us in check and our health in check, even though not many people would probably want to go to the doctors full stop for their own personal reasons. But for most of the families, it's the GPs that will be the one that makes that referral first, that begins that all-important diagnosis process for yourself. And it's more likely to be the GP who will then refer you on to a medical team or occupational therapy team or a dietary support team, physiotherapy team, or whatever medical team out there of these other interventions that can make life easier for yourself and for your child. Autism doesn't necessarily mean poor general health, however. Many people may think that, many children with autism are as healthy as their own peers are neurotypicals, and never get anything worse than the odd case of maybe the sniffles. Here's me out here, I'm one of them. Going to the doctor can be a very stressful time and experience for people on the autism spectrum and the carers, as I said. So here I am today to provide some reasonings to why this experience may be difficult for an autistic person, and in the second part to suggest some strategies that may be of help and benefit to you. So the possible triggers to look out for or to know about is for these everyday changes for you and your child is: 1. The fear of the unexpected. Although a visit to the GP can provide the structure that you need, or even the autistic person in your life, in that there is a definite routine that needs to be involved. As I said before, some of us autistics like to have an everyday routine, so it may pay to just keep it on the down low and just introduce it slowly and whatnot. If there wasn't a routine, however, this may cause meltdowns, sensory overload, anxiety. The world will come crashing down, and it will cause stress on you and the child. This can be due to the fact that in most cases of the unknown, exactly what a doctor may or will do to you child. The unstructured time in the waiting room and the other patients present can be difficult for that autistic person. The unavailability of the consultation room and equipment can seem really daunting. Alternatively, negative experiences from the past and associations with pain can influence this as well for future associations and fear of the experience. Number 2, sensory difficulties. Sensory issues can be a large factor in a person's negative experience at the doctors, such as lights. Obviously, is number 1 under this sensory difficulty. Sensitivity to certain lighting can be a particular problem. For instance, a strip fluorescent lighting can be experienced as painful and distressing to the child. It has also been found that the use of pen lights can trigger seizures in those susceptible, 20 to 30% of people on the spectrum. Kagan, Kirshner, Roberts, and Sneed, 2005, suggests this. Another sensory issue or difficulty is your touch, your tactile system. If a person is hyposensitive to touch, they may have a high threshold to pain or temperature and not mind heavier pressure when touched. This could cause difficulty when being examined, however, by the doctor, as the person may not appear to be in pain but could, for example, have broken a bone. They may then be able to decode the different body sensations to recognize it as pain. They can then display unusual responses to pain, such as laughing, humming, or stripping, which may make it difficult for the doctor to recognize and identify the problem. It may be that the change in behavior is also the only indicator that the person is in pain. On the other hand, however, with the autistic person may be hypersensitive to touch. They may experience the slightest touch as uncomfortable or even painful. They will therefore withdraw from touch, which then causes difficulties when a doctor is trying to conduct a physical examination for your child. Materials used could also be a problem. For instance, the paper sheet on the examination table, cotton wool, or plasters may cause particular discomfort. Another sensory difficulty here is noise. Some doctors' surgeries use buzzers to indicate when a patient's coming in or when is the patient's turn to come in to see them. They may also have music playing in the waiting room. Crying babies or children in the waiting room may also be quite noisy for them. For those with hypersensitive hearing, these types of noises can be magnified and become quite disturbing. Also, with this heightened volume, surrounding sounds could become distorted for the autistic person. This could cause difficulty in recognizing sounds such as an ambient chord, for instance. Personal space and body awareness. A crowded waiting room may be quite distressing for someone who may need the personal space. Similarly, close proximity to the doctor, however, could be quite uncomfortable for the patient. Problems can also occur when trying to explain where the pain is experienced. Those who have difficulty with body awareness may not be able to experience where different body parts are. Communication. It can be a problem for most patients on the autism spectrum to indicate where pain is due to communication difficulties. It may also be difficult for them to understand what a doctor is asking of them, to understand when the doctor is explaining what they are going to do with them. So therefore, basically, maybe as a carer, if you can break it down to them, if you into baby words, well, not too much of a baby word, but a level of understanding for your child to understand what's going on around them, so that hopefully it doesn't cause too much discomfort, confusion, and the like. When you don't need to see the doctor very often, the doctor can be like a near stranger, which would be fine, but it's good to have an illness-free life, right? Except that those on occasions when you do have to see the doctor, you may find yourself supervising a meeting between a child afraid of strangers and a doctor who doesn't know any your son's or daughter's quirks. Introducing the two can be a delicate business. So, breaking it down even further, anticipating the appointment. When a kid has autism, anticipation can tip very easily off the iceberg, and then it runs through to anxiety. Basically, if your son or daughter has the language skills to understand, then you'll need to prepare them for the fact that they have a doctor's appointment. But if that leaves them worried and whether it will go as it should, what the environment will be like, and what will happen when they get there, you'll be dealing with a worried child. A trip to the doctor can feel for a child with autism like a step into a threatening unknown, as I said. This is all the more stressful if the medical appointment disrupts a regular routine in their path, such as having to take time out of their school day. Routine and ritual can be one of your child's most cherished safeguards against anxiety. and you have to take them out of a familiar schedule into an unpredictable place. They're liable to feel very anxious indeed. I have also talked about rituals and routines, the importance of it. I'll link it up here above me in the I bar. This is basically also in the description if you would like to know more of what I'm saying to understand, you know, about me as well as maybe a few people that you work with that are autistic. Anyway, next step is waiting to be seen. For a child with sensory sensitivities, a waiting room can be a real challenging place. Fluorescent lighting can hurt sensitive eyes or can even burn their scalp. Medical products can have strong and disturbing smells. Telephones, buzzers, background conversation, and crime waves can all have hurt those poor sensitive ears. Meanwhile, you have to deal with the unpredictable waiting period, as even the best GPs can run late. Unstructured time is often uncomfortable for the child with autism. And a waiting room is an environment where they're required to sit still, control their voices, and not mess with anything, surrounded by strangers out of their comfort zone. The appointment. Doctors have to examine you, right? So the child with autism doesn't like being examined. It's quite common for the child to feel uncomfortable with other people getting into their personal space at all. I was talking about personal space and boundaries also. I'll link that in the description as well as on the other bar above me to actually explain more onto what I'm saying here. But this should be self-explanatory. Even if they don't mind being touched, a child might not be able to explain their own symptoms. The GP might manage to do some prodding and testing, but again, sensory issues can come into play here. Just as a child might be hypersensitive to some things, they can be hypersensitive to some other things. Example-wise, others are sensitive to others. If this includes a high resistance to pain, they may show the unusual or the usual reaction to, say, pressing on an inflamed stomach, making this problem harder to diagnose. Finally, there's an even more basic problem to be examined. A child has to sit still, and for some children with autism, this can be posed extremely difficult. What do you do about it all? Visiting the doctor, as I said, can be stressful, but it's one of those things you can't cross off your list or dismiss it. Preparation is generally the best approach. So, therefore, here, background preparation. It's helpful to build up a pre-existing relationship with the GP and the surgery so they know what to expect from you and your child. If you can, arrange 1 or 2 particular GP visits to be your son or daughter, regular doctors, so everyone knows each other, as well as also, you should also get your son or daughter familiar with the surgery itself. If it's a new surgery, bring them in for some visits. Ask beforehand just to avoid having to explain once you're actually there. Drive or walk past that clinic so that they get used to the route and generally establish the surgery as a safe place. Next step is booking the appointment. Make sure the staff, especially reception staff in charge of the waiting room, have a clear picture of what sort of needs and behaviours that they'll be dealing with. Ask them if they have a quiet area where you could wait if need be. Now, another one is consider booking a double appointment in case your child anxieties cause complications that will slow things down. If waiting is really a problem, maybe ask a time that's less subject to delays, such as the first appointment of the day or the first appointment after lunch, and be called on your mobile phone when it's time to go in. If waiting in the surgery would be a nightmare, ask if you could wait somewhere else, as I said. For instance, in your car parked in the car park, or just being called on your mobile when ready to go in. Sorry, getting ahead of myself here. Preparing your son or daughter. Mark the appointment on the calendar, basically. Mark it in the diary, wherever. If you're maybe do a visual aid, as I said before, so many times before, so that they know in their routine that it's time to go. If your surgery has long waiting times, you might want to do this a few times before the appointment rather than as soon as you booked it. That gives your child less time to worry about. Try using a social story to explain what will happen. Don't forget to include the concept of waiting. You might want to bring a favourite distraction such as a tablet, computer, or some music headphones, and explain that your son or daughter can play with them while waiting. Another one is using visual prompts to allow all the steps the visit will involve. Example-wise, travelling there, walking to the reception, telling the receptionist that you're there, waiting for the appointment, how you'll know when it's your turn, going into the GP's office, so on and so forth. Consider bringing along another trusted elder to help look after your child so you can concentrate on listening to the doctor. If you have several questions, make a list in advance so that if the appointment is chaotic, you won't forget what you meant to ask at the doctor's clinic. Waiting for the appointment. Bring along some toys, a tablet, drinks and snacks. Pleasant distractions not only help your child feel calmer during the wait, but also start a build up to the association that the surgery is a safe place when they get nice things. So a reward may after the appointment is well due too, if they deserve it. Be reassuring and prepared to explain multiple times what's going to happen next. If you've been using visual prompts, you might want to bring them along too to support your explanation to the child. If possible, find out approximately how long the wait will be and then a visual countdown timer if you need to for your child to reduce their anxieties. However, if your surgery isn't always reliable in their estimates, this is one that can backfire, so just use your own judgment on this during the appointment. Make sure someone, either you or the GP, tells your child what's going to happen before every stage of the process. If language is an issue, be ready to act as translator. You may need to explain your child to the GP, but you might also need to simplify some of the GP says to your child. You may also want to act as an emotional behaviour translator. You know what your son or daughter's behaviours mean, but the GP isn't so versed on this in their personal quirks. If, for instance, they start stumbling, you might need to explain what's going on. If there are physical examinations, use calming techniques, whatever works best at home, bring them into the clinic to reassure your child. Be alert to the signs of stress and be prepared to ask the GP to pause if it seems to be getting too much for them. Don't worry about wasting the doctor's time. Trying to do things too fast is only going to cause more problems and stresses along the way. Be sure to ask the GP to slow down or step back if your child seems to be feeling hustled. So this quickly ends a short overview of Autism Out and About, first part of visiting the doctor. Smash the like button, comment below. Feel free to follow me on my social media sites. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you want to join me on the bandwagon, feel free to basically share these videos around to family and friends. And no further ado, guys, also just a heads up, as I haven't been mentioning it so much lately, even though my book has been published 2 years ago, it's out and ready for anyone that's maybe wanting to know about it. Some of it will be already covered with some of the tips and advice along the way based on it, and it has a bit more in depth of my storyline. But just as a heads up also, that in my chapter of the relationships, my status quo will be changing soon, so I'm not sure what I'm going to be labeling this relationship status with me and this person I'm with. But in all further ado, guys, thanks for support, thanks for watching. Do what love what you do. Don't forget to spread the word, and I'll see you all again soon. Ciao for now.